vibration is the stuff of life. You know, it reminds us we're alive and like breathing, and it's like love. And I think for me, it's that which tells us that we are hovering in the void. We are both, you know, a being in the void, but also part of the void ourselves. Yeah, I'm Richard Davey. I'm a writer on art, academic, and various other things. I'm also a university chaplain. So my background is writing on contemporary artists, from Anselm Kiefer through to Leonard Cohen, Tester, and so on. And I've worked for the Royal Academy of Arts and other kind of publishers over the years. What I'm interested in is how art can speak to us about bigger questions about being in the world. And I find myself drawn quite often to abstraction as the kind of place where the grammar of art is found kind of at the surface most. You know, it's there in all imagery, but in a work of abstract art, you find it on the surface. You haven't got any of that narrative to get through to find what the artist is doing with colour and line and pattern and repetition and so on.
Because we've often talked about Sublime, and I've just come back from Iceland. I travelled to the top of a glacier and I looked behind me and it was almost like a Caspar David Friedrich. And the light that I saw there at the glacier was, I suppose, in my eyes, the true definition of what the sublime is. The definition of sublime to me is something almost like you're on the threshold of something that you can't really explain, but you have this feeling that something is more powerful than you, but you are connected to it in some way.
Yeah, I think that's really interesting. I write and think about sublime and beauty all the time. I did a PhD in theology, a bit about contemporary art, and I was talking to artists who were using the word beauty all the time, or sublime, but it seemed to me in a very different way to what philosophers, Kant and Burke and contemporary philosophers were doing. And one of the questions I kind of found myself exploring was, there was a French postmodern philosopher called Jean-François Lyotard, who writes about the postmodern condition. And then he says that a definition or kind of defining aspect of the postmodern is a distrust, or that we no longer have any meta-narratives. The meta-narratives are those big universal stories, such as beauty. We can't talk about beauty because everything's subjective now.
Yeah.
We know what beauty is because we have individual beauty. I was kind of going, yeah, I get that, but it doesn't quite work. It doesn't, fit with what I was experiencing with art and what my gut says, and a sense of something bigger than myself, something bigger than us. We are both part of something which is intangible, that we are dissolving, we're coming out of something, this space, this carbon space outside of ourselves, becoming form. At the same time, that form is always dissolving back into that intangible space. And it's that kind of flux and flow, that kind of forming and dissolving. And light is this objective, invisible, intangible kind of sensation we have that is beyond us, but we can't grasp. That light is this thing which we can't see except through colour. So when you talk about light, it is because it changes the colours that we see in our brain.
Yeah.
And I get this, I'm fascinated by this impossible point, which is where light, that photon of light, which has mass, pierces our body, pierces our retina, but then becomes a kind of sensation, becomes energy in the brain, or kind of something intangible in the brain, that kind of impossible moment where things change. And for me, that's the wobble between the sublime and beauty. And beauty is form and the sublime is formlessness.